Hey, District 2 sports fans, it's Gregory here, and I want to tell you about our new sponsorship here. If you're looking to make your business stand out, you've got to check out Chaos Cartel Company. They specialize in custom shirts, hats, tumblers, banners, and so much more. And the best part, there's no minimum order, and their pricing is amazing. I should know because we have a few shirts from them. Whether you're a small business or just looking to get some cool merch, Chaos Cartel Company is here to help. They love working with other businesses to bring your brand to life. If you want to get started, give them a call at 434 489 6123 or shoot them an email at chaoscartel1, and that's the number one, at gmail.com. Chaos Cartel Company, making your business look good, one custom piece at a time.
You are now listening to the District 2 Sports Podcast, available on all your favorite music apps. Like and subscribe.
Folks, we have a real treat for you tonight. And I just got to admit, I'm already nervous. Like I said, I just saw the pictures in the background and I am terrified already, but we'll give it a shot. Um, we're welcoming one of the best officials in the United States of America, in my opinion. And I know we've been anticipating this night for a long time, and I know we'll just call him out now. Mr. Steve Myers has been waiting for this night as well. So, and I'll be the first to say we might have outkicked our coverage tonight, boys. So, but we'll give it a shot. But as good an official or great as an official as this person is, he's even a better gentleman. And we want to welcome Mr. Roger Ayers to our program tonight. Mr. Ayers, thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me. If you keep saying all those nice comments, I'll just talk all night. So thank you.
Well, they're all true.
I do that much in my line of work. Trust me.
Listen. I walk in the door. I'm actually in Jacksonville with Gregory tonight, and I walk in the door, and I said, "Oh my God, he's on our program tonight." And Gregory's sitting here watching YouTube and all kinds of videos and everything that you've done on social media with all these clinics and camps and stuff. And I was like, I'm way out of my league tonight. So we'll give it a shot anyway, Mr. Ayers.
Just do the best you can, pal. No pressure.
Well, I'll take the first question here, Mr. Ayers. So I know you're from Roanoke, like I talked about from Southern Virginia. I didn't want to talk about how you got started into your career as a referee, but as I understand it, you went to Patrick Henry High School, tried out for JV, didn't make it. But tell me why you stayed around basketball, the game of basketball, as it didn't really work out for you. But how did that career start for you?
Yeah, well, first of all, Woody Deans at PH. I never did like him, the coach, when he cut me, but now we're really good friends. He's always asking me for tickets because he said if I hadn't cut you, you wouldn't have got into officiating. So there's a lot of HCC coaches wish I hadn't got cut and stayed with the playing side. But it's crazy, kind of a crazy story. I had a friend of mine one night called me up. He said, "Look, I've got to go ref some rec ball game, little 8, 9 year old little kids." And used to play basketball. Are you interested? I said, no way. I don't want to go out there and deal with the moms and dads and grandparents. He said, well, it's 3 games. It's $50. I said, $50 cash? He said, yeah. I said, I'm in. So I went and tried it and loved it. I'm like, I could do this. And a guy comes over and has me a $50 bill. I said, when do you need me again? He said, well, how about tomorrow? I'm like, count me in. So I went back the next night, and then I called Roanoke County. I lived in Cave Spring area, so I called Roanoke County Parks and Rec, and I said, I'd like to referee some rec ball or AAU on the weekends. And the guy says, well, when can you start? I go, when do you need me? He says, how about this Saturday? You've got 10 games. I start at 8 a.m. and work till 5 p.m. I was like, whoa, it's a little more than I expected, but fell in love with it. And then I was working with some high school refs, and I said, well, I should try to get in the Virginia High School League. And they go, oh, no, you don't have any training. We're professionals. You don't know what you're doing. I go, well, I can do what you can do. You walked up in the court for 2 hours today. I can do that. And you got a VHSL patch, and I got just a wannabe ref shirt. I can do what you do. Oh, no. So I just called the Virginia High School League and said, I'd like to referee. And they said, well, you need to sign up for your local board. So I called Ernie Brad here in Roanoke, and that's how I wound up working. I know you guys are from Danville. I started working games at Martinsville with Troy Wells and GW Danville. And I remember the last time I went to GW Danville, the cops, when I was leaving, said, hey, ref, you're not planning on coming back to Danville anytime soon, or I said, no, sir. He said, I wouldn't come back after tonight's performance. So I never refed another game at GW Danville. So I kind of got out of that. But as I got into high school basketball, I loved it. And I said, you know what, I really want to, I think I can do what those guys on TV can do, which I couldn't. I still can't. If you ask most coaches, they think I suck. I get it. But I got them fooled too. But I heard there were tryout camps. So I decided to pay some money. So I borrowed money from my parents and said, Dad, I want to borrow some money and fly to this tryout camp and try to get hired to work college basketball. And he said, let me get this straight, son. You're going to pay a man money to go ref games. He's going to sit in a chair and watch you, and you're going to pay him. I said, yeah, Dad. He said, your mom didn't do a good job raising you, son. I said, I'm going to go try it. So I went, and the first camp I went to, they said, look, you're too fat. You wasted your money. You have a mustache. You know, I said, well, back home in Roanoke, Virginia, my mom says I'm the best JV girls ref she ever saw. They go, maybe you should go back home and do the games your mom watches. So I was like, okay. So I went back home and I lost 40 pounds, went back to camp next year, and I got hired in the ODAC, which, as you guys know, is local here in this area. Started doing games there, and the rest is history. I went to an ACC tryout and was fortunate to get hired in 1998. So this will be my 27th year in the Atlantic Coast Conference, or a few other leagues as well. It is a great job. My dad told me when I was a kid, probably like your dad did. He said, son, you're lazy. All you want to do is play sports. You don't want to clean your room. You don't
Every
want
day.
you still do it. I get it. But all you want to do is dribble basketball. You don't want to do anything to do with helping your mom run out. You better find you a job. You work 2 hours a night for 5 months and get 7 months of vacation. I found it, and I'm gonna keep it. So I'm gonna keep running with it. I've been fooling them now for 27 years. I'm gonna keep rolling for a little while longer. Then I'm gonna start doing podcasts with you guys where the real money's at.
Here we go. Here we go. Listen, I got to go back a step further. The way I kind of understood this thing about Patrick Henry, the JV team, was you tried out and then you come home and gave the bad news. I understand you was in the car on the way to Food World for some reason.
Good day. It was not a good day. The whole week tryouts were Monday through Friday, and Coach Dick Kelly was the varsity coach, and I was just a 10th grader. So the JV team, we had to practice over at the elementary school near the high school. So he said Friday we'll put the team on the outside of the gym door. So I just knew I was going to make the team. That was never a question. Well, that Friday, the school buses all, see the buses starting to leave. I go to the gym door, and I figured, well, surely my last name is Ayers. It'll be in alphabetical order. While I look, and I thought, well, maybe he just randomly put the names up. I didn't see my name, and then I'm like, okay, I'm a poor boy from Southeast. I better go run and catch that school bus. I run, catch the school bus, and I get home, and my dad's sitting on the front porch smoking a Pall Mall and listening to country music. And he said, "What are you doing home, son?" I said, "Dad, I got cut." He said, "What do you mean you got cut?" I said, "I didn't make the team." He said, "Get in the car." And I said, "Yeah, I'd never seen my dad that upset." So we get in a Ford LTD, I hop in his car, and I think we're going to Patrick Henry. He's going to let Coach Deans let him have it. Well, instead of taking a left to get on the interstate to go to school, he turns right, goes out towards the Roanoke Airport, and takes me into a food or a grocery store. And I said, well, maybe mom needed milk and bread. Then we'll go to PH and cuss the coach out. He said, we get to the store. He says, come on in, son. I said, Dad, I really don't feel like going to the grocery store. He said, come on with me. I said, yes, sir. I walk in. We walk up to a little counter there in front of the store. I'll never forget. He says, can I see the store manager? And then it hit me. I said, oh, maybe the store manager's wife is Woody Dean's wife. We're going to cuss her out first. Then we'll go get Woody. Unfortunately, this gentleman walked up and he says, I'm Jerry Jones. I'm the store manager. Can I help you? He said, yes, sir, you can. This is my son. Since he could walk, he's dribbled a basketball, played basketball his whole life. He just got cut. He wants a job. And I said, oh, no, I don't. No, I don't want a job. I got cut and got on the school bus at 3:30 that afternoon. And at 5 p.m., I was bagging groceries. Some old lady told me to match the bread.
That's beautiful. That is absolutely beautiful. But I picture you. I kind of read a little bit of an excerpt about maybe like Hoosiers. So your dad nailed up a basketball goal and a backboard up, like I guess on the garage or something. And then your mama gives you a bag of flour so you could pour the foul line out. So I just
Yeah,
picture you just going to the NBA with this progress.
I'm probably the only guy who could have stopped Mike Jordan. I mean, I would have been the one who would have stopped him, but history changed its thinking, and I decided to just start getting a referee. But yeah, I did. I bought a bag of flour for my mom. I also got a rear end chewing that night because my dad said, first of all, we don't have money for you to be pouring flour in the backyard, and second of all, you only mowed the yard where the hoop was. You didn't mow the rest of the yard. So that was another life lesson for me as well. So I learned a lot growing up.
Ayers, I had a go back to the ODAC when you first got your start there. We've been huge advocates for the ODAC, and we talked to a lot of coaches, the last couple of years and whatnot for basketball. From your perspective, when you were refereeing in that league, um, we've always said it's a high level of basketball for D3, we think, for the ODAC. Could you comment on that? And then, was there any players or coaches or arenas that you enjoyed while you're in the ODAC?
Great question. And to this day, I got in the ODAC in 1996, so 29 years ago. That's the first league that hired me. I am still in the ODAC to this day. Every year they send out the contracts, and I'll send in my $50 registration. And Greg Bennett, who runs the ODAC, says, Roger, he rips up. So why are you? I said, because, and this is a life lesson for everyone on this podcast. It's where I got my break. It's where I got my start. And up until a few years ago, the ACC would even allow me to work one game a year in the ODAC, like maybe even the tournament in Salem Civic Center. I would go work there, and it was a big thrill for me. And now the schedule has gotten kind of hectic, and the ODAC coaches are happy I'm not working their games. They'd rather have the big time refs. But it was such a thrill for me to be in the ODAC, Roanoke College, Lynchburg College, Emory and Henry, Randolph Macon. I was a college ref, and all I really wanted to be, I didn't really want to ref games the ODAC. I just wanted to be able to order a college jacket because it had a nice college logo. I thought, I'm big, I'm somebody. But then I had to go ref the games. Some of the hardest games I ever ref were in the ODAC because the talent there, they play so hard every possession. And those coaches, obviously it's their job, but they do it for the love of the game and for the love of those student athletes and those kids. And there's no NIL deal. Nobody at Roanoke College is getting $1 million to play basketball. I mean, they're there because they love playing basketball. It's actually where I learned to referee. A lot of mistakes I made in the ODAC or things that went good and went bad for me, they still help me to this day. But as far as arenas go, I remember Bob Johnson used to be at Emory and Henry. His wife wore me out more than any other wife, even Coach K's wife, more than anybody else in America when I was reffing. But it was fun to kind of as I moved up and I would come back and work again in the ODAC, the guys would go like, well, why are you in the ODAC? I just saw you at UVA last night, or I just saw you at Virginia Tech last night. And I just said, I never forgot where I came from. And believe it or not, and a lot of people on this podcast may not believe it, but if I work so-called a big game, if you guys are watching TV one night and having a couple brews and wings saying, wow, he's working Duke, North Carolina, and the next night you see me at a lower level game, I work as hard or even harder the next night. Because what's everybody that night expecting me to do? Oh, take a night off. What I want them to do is when they see me officiate, go, now I see why he had those bigger games. I never take a night off. Every game is important to something. When you turn the scoreboard on in any arena, nobody cares about what you did last night or what you're doing tomorrow. That's the biggest game. Even I used to coach my little girls t-ball and softball games, and I told the umpires, this is the biggest game in the world. This is Game 7 of the World Series. Because to those little girls and those parents, as you know, you played. When you played, you don't care about what the umpire or ref did last night. It doesn't matter to you. It doesn't affect you. And even when I was doing high school in Roanoke, I'd have GW Danville maybe playing Martinsville on Friday night. The night before, I'd be doing a middle school girls game at Craig County with 50 people. I worked just as hard there. So that's one of the things that's helped me move up is to realize that every game is important to someone, and I never take a night off. And even now, refereeing, people say, man, I came to watch you for the first time. I thought you sucked on TV. You do suck. But after seeing you live, I do see a different side of you. So they use some other four-letter words, but I won't use.
Mr. Ayers, I was going to ask you, has it always been basketball? I mean, did you ever think about umpiring or anything to that effect? And the reason why I ask you this is, and I mentioned something to you on the phone when we talked. I have some really close friends, Richard Haymore, who used to referee in the Sun Belt, and then Ralph South, who did a lot of ACC women's games. And I used to go take Ralph to Charlottesville quite a bit when he was refereeing. But the words or the verbiage they used to me was, Greg, If you're totally interested in being an umpire and moving up and making it to the major leagues, okay. But we recommend do not ever get into a sport that does not have a clock. So I didn't know if you had heard anything at all going through the years or what.
I had heard that, Greg, but one of the things that stopped me from doing football and baseball is quite elementary. I don't want to put a hat on my hair and mess it up. I'm not ever. That's why I'm the only ref in America who never called a shot clock violation. I'm not going to touch this hair. Now, you and I might work again, Greg. I'll hit the whistle and say, Greg, you touch your head. It ain't going to hurt your hair, but I'm not touching my hair. So that's why I only do basketball. If they told me I had to wear a hat and do basketball, I'd retire tonight because Paul Mitchell gives me a lot of money to use their hair products.
Well, while we're on that subject, I'm glad you mentioned that because I see your pictures and I see you on TV. So how did we arrive at this hairstyle?
My dad, he slicked his back and he thought he was Elvis Presley or Conway Twitty or somebody. And when I was younger, I thought, what's he doing? But as I got older, I said, well, I'll slick it back. And then the fans started giving me a hard time about it, saying you got a hair out of place, and I'll mess with them. I'll touch the side of it or something. It's kind of become my stick. Like people go, even when I've gotten a haircut. I went to Clemson this year and they played North Carolina on a big Monday. And the fan, this lady in the front row is always there. She said, Mr. Ayers, I like your new haircut. And I said, well, thank you. I mean, I'm glad someone noticed. But just kind of people, my partners give me a hard time all the time about slicking the hair back. But like right now, it's cut kind of short. But come September, October, it'll start to grow a little bit. So people stop me all the time in the airports, go, you're the rep. And it's not because it's just cut the hair and slick it back. Most of the time, they stop me and say, you missed another call last.
Listen, I want to ask you about I guess a sentence or line that you've used, and I just want to find out just how important this line is to you or has been to you for your career. And I think it goes something along the lines of, I'll go get something to eat and I'll come back later. Do you remember that?
Um, oh yeah, at the hotel when I checked in Indianapolis, when I was checking in the hotel and they said the rooms weren't ready, and the girl says, "I'm sorry, I don't know what to tell you. It might be later tonight." And I was like, "It's okay, I understand. I'll just go grab some lunch and come back later." And when I went to walk away, she said, "Mr. Ayers, your room is now ready." And I thought, well, they do things quicker here in Indianapolis than they do in Dan. What it was on the first test of being in the ACC is like, how do you treat people when no one's watching? Like I tell my daughter, she's 25 now, and I tell her all the time, you never know who's watching you in life, and that person that you may want to cuss out, or shoot the finger at a stoplight. It'd be real embarrassing tomorrow morning. We're doing this on a Sunday night. Tomorrow morning, to be going to a job interview, and I'm at a stoplight, and I shoot a finger to the guy sitting beside me at the stoplight, and then go 2 more blocks and walk in the interview, and it happens to be him. I got no chance. I try to be a good person 24/7. I make mistakes. I'm human. But I treat players, coaches, whether it's the ushers at the game, the security, they always say, Mr. Ayers, you're so nice to us. You're the only one who speaks to us. We're nobodies. I go, you absolutely are somebody. I appreciate what you do. I'm the nobody here. I'm the one 20,000 people hate. Nobody's booing you. So, but I'm very blessed to get to do it. As I said, I was actually born in Lynchburg, not far from you guys, Lynchburg General Hospital, and lived 2 years in Evington, Virginia, which is a metropolis near Danville, as you probably know, Alta Vista, Evington. So I don't like to brag about my heritage, how rich I was, but my uncles cut pulpwood for a living, and I saw them cutting wood, and I went, that's too hard to work for me, so I'm getting out of Lynchburg, Danville area, and I'm going to get me to Roanoke and grow me some hair and slick it back and referee. So that's kind of what I did.
Mr. Ayers, I wanted to, you called a national championship. You're the only person on this podcast who's called a national championship game before, so congrats to you on that one. But what was that experience like for you, first off? But also, differing from the ACC regular season to maybe the ACC tournament, does your approach to calling the game change at all when you get to that type of stage? Are you letting guys play a little bit more? Are you calling it more tight because you want to make sure they're not hand checking and whatnot? Or how do you approach that?
Mr. Ayers, hold on before you answer this. And there is a method to his madness right now, okay? Because don't fall into the trap. He's trying to get you into this Florida Gator trap, okay? Be careful. I'm just warning you now, okay?
Oh, I know. I would not doubt it. But this year in the Final Four, I did Florida Auburn. I won't say who won, but I guess last year it was my first national. I have done 7 Final Fours, but last year was the first national championship, and it happened to be UConn and Purdue. Purdue had Zach Edey, and UConn was loaded. Hurley and his whole team, and it was the matchup I think America wanted to see. But ironically, I treat it like every other. Obviously, I know it's different. You walk out, there's 75,000 people. I know what's at stake. I know it's a national championship. But what I've kind of learned officiating, when you go out to a referee and you start trying to change things, you start trying to do things different than you normally do, or you start trying to referee different, or calling the game different, or calling what you normally don't call, or letting go of what you normally don't call. Fans won't believe this, but the majority, a foul is a foul. And whether it's a foul in the first minute or the last minute, I don't. I pride myself on calling the game, but I could care less who the home team is, who the visiting team is, who's supposed to win, who's not supposed to win. The team is 0-20, and the other team's 20-0. I don't care. I rep the game. I don't look at the name on the front of the jerseys. And when you go out and work a Final Four national championship game, that game is important to both teams. And to be a referee at that level, you're blessed, because the NCAA tournament starts. I don't know if you know how the process works, but on Selection Sunday, when everybody's sitting home watching who's going to get in the tournament, who's not, so are we. We have no idea. On that Sunday night at 9 p.m., the bracket comes out at 6. We don't know till 9 p.m., and the NCAA sends an email to 100 refs. There's thousands of refs across the country. They select 100 to work that first weekend. There's 96, and then there's 4 alternates. Well, after that first round, then you're down to 56 refs, and they decide after your game if you're going to work a second round game. After you work that game, that Sunday night, everybody goes home. The teams, the winning team, everybody leaves. On Monday, the NCAA decides who's going to work the Sweet 16 Elite 8. They pick 36 refs. So now you're down from 100 that started last week. Now you're down to 36. So your chances are dwindling. So once you get to Elite 8 and Sweet 16, you work one game only, whether you work the Sweet 16 or Elite 8. And then Sunday, that's the Final 14 are set. And then Monday at 4 o'clock, you either get an email saying, thanks for your hard work, your season is over, or congratulations, you're going to the Final Four. And that's when they pick 9 guys. So just to be in a conversation with those other 8 guys is tremendous. I work with a lot of great refs that make me look a lot better than I am. They carry me a lot of nights, and I just ride their coattail, and I just keep fooling them, and I offer my hair gel anytime they want it. But some take it, some don't. But it's a great job, and to get to go out there and thinking about when you started at Rec Ball, or even working at GW Danville, or working any ODAC or Patrick Henry, just to get to go out there, it is a huge thrill, and they actually pay you a little bit of money to do it. So
My second part of that, you called a great game for that semifinal. I would say, Auburn was hacking Florida all night. They should have fouled. The whole team should have fouled out. But anyways, going to the national championship game, the reason why I asked this is because it seemed like the first half at the championship game, if you watched it, it was very physical between Florida and Houston. Not a lot of fouls called. I think it was only 4, I think I read, or something like that. 4 fouls called the first half or something like that. Second half, totally different. When you go into a game like that at halftime, are the referees talking to each other like, hey, this is how we thought the first half went? Well, maybe we call it a little bit tighter in the second half. And it seemed like the game actually flowed a little bit better in the second half, and there's also more scoring and whatnot. So I want to get your thoughts on that too.
Well, I wasn't in that locker room. The crazy thing about the Final Four is if you work Saturday, you cannot. Once the game's over Saturday, you have to leave Sunday morning. The 3 guys who work Monday can't come in till Sunday. So I wasn't in the locker room thing, but I can tell you, like in my game, the Auburn-Florida game, we're talking about tendencies of trying to be call a game on both ends, be consistent, or are we letting too much go here? Is it getting too physical? Anything you may have spotted something I haven't spotted. It's a great. We have in the NCAA tournament, we have 20 minutes to talk. So spend about 15 minutes going over what we could have done better. Now in the national championship game, the NCAA felt like that was the three best refs in America this year. So those 3 could certainly handle the game. To the outside world, it may look like it was 2 different games, but to the guys reffing the game, I'm sure they just call what they're presented with. Obviously, if I can go into a game this year and not call one single foul, and the team just run up down the floor and not touch each other, not foul each other, and say, "Oh, excuse me, I didn't need to bump you," and I can just stand by for 3 minutes, I'll be extremely happy. That doesn't always happen, and my guess is in the national championship game, players, coaches, that rear end gets a little bit tighter because they know you're 20 minutes away from your season being over. You don't have another game in 2 days. We can bounce back. That last 20 minutes, Katie boiled the door. I'll hold. We have to win the game, and sometimes maybe you're going to be more physical, or you have more fouls to give now because, as you said in the first half, they only committed 4 fouls. That means no one's in foul trouble. Great players, great coaches all know you get 2 or 3 fouls early, where do you wind up? On the bench. Well, in the national championship game, no one was in foul trouble, so they could be a little more aggressive. So I think that's when the fans and media felt like, well, they're calling more fouls. Well, a foul is a foul. If they don't call it, then what? Then we're on this podcast talking about the game was way too physical. They let it get too rough in the second half, and the referees lost control of the game. So our job is to manage chaos for 40 minutes, and sometimes it's beautiful and everything works fine. Our goal, as I told my crew after the Auburn, Florida game, we were in the locker room, we hugged each other. I said, guys, the best thing about we didn't say who won or lost, didn't care who won or lost. I said, the best thing about our game right now is nobody's going to be on Sports Center talking about the officiating tomorrow about they blew this, they did this, they blew that last call. The teams just played, and whoever wins the game wins the game. And that's my goal every night when I officiate. I don't want to wake up and my friends are all texting, don't turn on Sports Center today. You don't want to see what they're saying about that. No ref wants that. We just want to do the game and move on to the next city. So I was proud of the way the guys worked the national championship. I was pulling for them, and sometimes the games flow like wine, and other times they don't. You just play the hand you're dealt.
Mr. Ayers, I got a couple of officiating questions I'd like to ask. And listen, I was one of the most fabulous rec center referees that ever come out of the YMCA. So I just, it was a brilliant career I had. It just didn't last long enough, and I didn't make it to that next level. But with I guess the players now are so much bigger than they used to be. They're so much stronger than they used to be. They're so much faster than they used to be. They're just so much more athletic. In my opinion, just watching games on TV and, well, of course, in person, I feel like you could call a foul just about every play down the court. I mean, with the way there's bumping and, especially outside with the guards on top of each other, defending. And I just wanted to ask you, in the officiating eyes, is it a such thing as trying to call the game as a advantage versus disadvantage versus just the contact itself? Because like I said, I feel like you could call a foul just about any time, and it just doesn't make a sense to if a guy pulls a rebound and if a guy is on his back some, why call that? And I'm just kind of figure out, is that the way the officiating goes nowadays, or is there more to it?
Well, that's why you were a great rec ball at the YMCA there in Danville. That's why you stay in your lane, I'll stay in my lane. But no, great point. But I want you to think about this: when you and I were in high school, the star football player also played basketball. He wrestled. He golfed. He was on the baseball team. They played as soon as football ended, he threw the pads away and went to basketball. When that was over, he picked up a baseball. The top players, I can assure you right now, Cooper Flagg never had a football helmet on. He ain't played baseball. Those players, the top players in the country now, they're basketball 24/7. The AU, the stuff in the summer, all they do is basketball. If their goal is to go to the NBA, very few NBA players. Once in a while, you'll see a Russell Wilson or somebody that's played football. The majority of great NBA players, their whole life has been basketball. And the reason basketball has become so good, so competitive, is because those players now, they take care of their bodies more. They are faster. They're in the gym specific to lifting weights for basketball for the grind instead of lifting weights to be a 300-pound lineman in college football. They're lifting weights to protect their body for basketball. The thing with me in the game is the speed, how quick those players are, and you have to make split-second decisions. The one thing I love about football games and referees is because they can throw a flag and huddle up and then say there's no penalty, no flag on the play. Greg, you and I go work game, blow the whistle. We can't go say, you know what, let's just talk, let's just change this. No whistle. We just messed up. We can't do that. We're stuck. So one of the other things that changed a lot for me in 25 years, there used to be no instant replay. Now it's constant. If I make a mistake, you guys know at home before I even report the foul, they've already showed it 10 times. Social media, there was no social media 30 years ago. I could make a mistake in a game and the world probably may not even know about it. Now I make a mistake in the game, it's worldwide before I get to the locker room. And then the other elephant in the room is gambling. There was probably gambling. I'm not naive to think nobody ever gambled. But now There's gambling in arenas. There's gambling on how many free throws players are going to make. I've received death threats now from people all because they think I lost a game or you call that foul, you're dead man. I even had an individual send me and signed his name, which is crazy, and gave my address and said, "You're a dead man walking. We're digging a 6-foot hole tonight when you get home to blank, blank address." And it was my correct address. And I sent it in and they go, "Roger, that's just the nature of social media." Well, that's scary. But now can't talk to anybody. At the Final Four, was sequestered. We have to have police escorts. When I got started in the ACC, we had one cop. He would take care of all three of us. Now we arrive at the arena, there's 3 police officers for us. And they watch you the time you get to the car. I had a game a few years ago at NC State, and the cop said, "Hey, Roger, we love you, but where are you going tonight?" I said, "I'm going right back to the Marriott." He said, "Go there and don't stop anywhere. You go straight to the hotel and lock the door." Because people now are crazy, and they feel like 1 or 2 calls that I may make affect them losing money. And I could care less what the line is. I don't care who wins or loses. My job is, like this year at the Final Four, there's 30, 40 cameras. They're watching every move I make. They even had, if you guys may have saw, there was a camera over the court, hovering over the court, right on top of it. I don't understand how people think we're actually trying to screw up, because if we screw up, we're just not going to work. But the gambling, the social media, and the instant replay. I like instant replay to the point of, let's go over for 30 seconds, get the play right, and let's put the ball back in play. I do not like going over, looking at a Geico commercial or looking at a podcast or District 2 commercial or a National Enterprise commercial. Well, you guys commercials are fine.
Wait a minute. Let's make sure the District 2 podcast gets in there, okay?
I get a cut on that. This year when I go to the headset, I'm going to go, this District 2 podcast, so I'm going to get you a plug. But a lot of times I'm looking at a blank screen and the crowd's booing and my partner's going, "What's taking you so long?" I go, "It's blank." And the Jumbotron is showing the replay. Well, I can't look up at the Jumbotron and make a decision. So that's changed a lot. And this year, new rule is the coaches can challenge 1 call a game. So now they're going to get to challenge a call that we make on the floor. And it's just going to, I know they're trying to make the game better, but it is a hard job. The best referees in America are the ones in the stands. The parents, the media, those people that sit there, they've worked perfect games every night. If I ever work a perfect game, I'm going to call you up, Greg, and say, "I want to do a podcast on the Bahamas. I'll be drinking out of a straw drink and relax and say, I want to tell you how I did it." But you can go with me.
Yeah, well, that's what I was going to say. I think we ought to do that from the Bahamas together, if you don't mind.
To do it live and have some guest coaches on. Which other thing I want to complain about the YouTube clowns here before we get up is I went back and watched some of your podcasts. Steve Meyer sent me some. He's like, "Just players, media. Finally, you get to a referee." I'm like, my God, I don't know these guys, but no, just kidding. Officiating's been good to me. Be from Southwest Virginia and get to do what I do, because a lot of people said, one of the first camps I went to, they said, "Where are you from?" I said, "Roanoke, Virginia." They said, "Oh, Roanoke Rapids. We're from here. That's in North Carolina." I go, "They didn't even know where I was from." So, and people said I couldn't make it. And I'm like, okay, just keep saying that. Now they're the same ones who call wanting tickets.
Well, let me go back one step, okay? Because I had these officiating questions kind of lined up, and I couldn't figure out which one I wanted to ask first. But do you feel like the job of the officials are to control the game, or basically call everything they see? And I'm trying to get to a specific point where, let's just say you and Eads are working a game together, and you're out in the sea and he's underneath, and you think a foul has taken place in his area, I guess you want to say, wherever he's at. And do you feel like that's your job to call what you see, or do you feel like that's his job to see what to call?
Our job is to manage games, is to manage chaos. And we have areas of responsibility. There's 3 of us on the court, which when I first started, there was only 2 of us. And once I started doing 3, I'm like, I'm so happy there's 3 refs here. But if there's something obvious that everybody in the arena sees, somebody take someone's head off, maybe Mike was blocked out, or maybe I was blocked out. And even now I tell rookie refs, if I'm under the basket, and this is your first year in the ACC this year, Greg, and you see someone get their head knocked off, I want you to come blow the whistle in front of me. And I will be the first one to say, "Greg, thank you. Great pickup." Because I want the game to flow smooth. I don't want it to get to chaos, because a lot of times when I was coming up, you were kind of scared to blow in some of the veteran refs. There was a Lenny Wirtz or a Dick Paparo or some of those big time refs, and you're like, that's in his lap. I'm going, well, I'm going to look in the stands at a pretty woman or something. I ain't getting involved in that mess. He's right there. And those days have changed. Now referees want to get the plays right. And no, we don't want you blowing all over the court. And I tell obvious. If it's a betweener, it's kind of like ants and elephants is the way we describe it. If you see an ant 50 feet away, you might want to pass on that. But if you see an elephant 50 feet, everybody sees the elephant. Get rid of it. Take care of the elephant. But a lot of young refs, the hardest thing for refs to do is not so much the play calling part as because most people can, if you get to that level, you have pretty good judgment on what's a foul, what's not a foul. The hardest part, and I tell people, I speak on this a lot on these other podcasts that pay me a lot of money. The hardest part for referees is communication with coaches. If you can learn to talk, when I first started, people said, Roger, you got to learn to talk to those coaches. I didn't know what to say because I'd see them on TV and I'd look kind of like you were on this podcast, which I get it. You were intimidated by me, my size and my gun. I get it. It happens a lot. But the first time I saw Coach K, I wanted to ask for an autograph. Or you see, Roy Williams, those are, Mike Young at Virginia Tech. These guys are Danny Hurley. They're Bill Self. They're bigger than life. And on their campuses, they're bigger than life. When you walk out there, now you're in charge. You're the authority figure. So you have to learn to talk to them. And that's the one thing we're weak on with younger officials. They don't know what to say. They all think they do. And they go to these tryout camps in the summer, and they're talking to a high school coach or an AAU coach who thinks he could be a Division I coach. But times change. You put the bright lights on in November, and there's 15,000 people, and there's ESPN there, and those coaches, you got to learn to talk them off the ledge. If you can learn to communicate, and I'm the first one to tell a coach, hey, coach, I might have missed the play. I'm human. I might have missed it. And some refs don't want to say that. And I try to tell them, guys, we kicked that play. We're human. And I have not in 28 years now in the ACC ever went to a coach and said, Coach, believe it or not, I'm just as shocked as you are, but you're right. I missed the play. Every single time in my career, they've always said, thank you. I won't say another word about it. They get it. It's like their players miss shots. They call the wrong play. Players commit turnovers. We're going to make mistakes. You just can't make them at crucial times. But they understand more when you go up. It's like if they get on a player for taking a bad shot and coaches and the player's like, oh, screw you, coach. I'm the best player out here. Nobody likes that. But if I'm human, I make a mistake. I missed it, coach.
Well, I'm going to throw a couple opinions in here. And, when I was doing a lot of umpiring, I used to do my little coaches meeting and, hey guys, and just like you just said, we're not perfect here. I'm probably going to miss a ball or strike. I might even miss a call in front of me. And I'll give you your time to say what you need to. Just call timeout and come out on the field if that's what you want to do. It might not change anything. I might, whatever. But I see so many young guys nowadays that I don't know if it's just their ego getting in the way, but now it's don't you say a word. Don't you come at me. Don't do this. I just feel like they're setting themselves up for failure and that they're going to be even more under that microscope if they continue on like that without, I don't know, making them, I'm not saying be the fall guy or be a scapegoat, but at least let people know there are chinks in your armor.
A lot of it's arrogance. I think a lot of people put the uniform on and think I'm bigger than the game. People are here to see me, here to what? No. And I've had coaches tell me, Ayers, you suck. You really are bad. You do talk to me. So I'll take you any night I can get you. And I'm thinking, well, I suck. And all I got to do is talk to you. But your point is, and I tell you young refs all the time, you have it takes as you umpire, it takes a while to build credibility with coaches. They have to see you multiple times, home and away. And the biggest comment, as an official, you can get is when a coach says, I don't really like him, but I want him on the road because he's not going to be intimidated. This crowd's not going to get in his head. He's just going to call the game. He's going to call balls and strikes regardless of who's pitching, or Roger's going to call the game no matter what. I don't look outside the arena and go, oh, well, I'm here tonight. Forget that. I want the visiting team. It's like we got just as much chance as anybody else does to win the game.
Well, I got a twofold question for you. So I told you a few minutes ago before we started this, I walk into Gregory's house and he's got you on the 70-inch screen talking, and you said, one of the things is just so you know that I paid attention here. you got to talk the coach's lingo, and that, I think the famous two words are by rule, by rule, by rule. This is what you're doing by rule. And I just had the second part of my question was, I think you had a game maybe in New York early in your career, and I think it was maybe a guy named Bobby Knight that was coaching the game up there at Texas Tech, and I think Wake Forest. I think he enjoy the by rule, the lingo, or whatever. I understood it. He thought you might be deaf in the first half.
Appreciate you guys having me on tonight. I wish you all the best in the future. Time flies when we don't be on here 4 hours. That's actually a great story. I had never had Bobby Knight. And ironically, to back up a little bit, that week I had Liberty. It was one of my first years with our new supervisor. It was 2005, I think. Liberty was playing at UVA, and my new boss, he didn't really know me that well, but he'd give me the game. It was on Thursday night. And I'm like, okay, well, this is November. I said, good. Well, maybe that's he likes me. He's going to start giving me more ACC games. He calls me on Tuesday and says, Roger, this is John Clougherty. I got to take you out of the Liberty UVA. And I'm thinking, this is not good. If he doesn't think I can handle Liberty at UVA, my conference schedule is not going to be very good at all. He said, someone got hurt. I need to send you to New York to Madison Square Garden. Well, Madison Square Garden is not exactly like GW Danville High School gym. It's more of a mecca. And I was like, well, yes, sir. He didn't tell me who I had. He said, you'll be working the first game. And I was like, I'll walk to New York. I'll get there. Don't worry about it. I'll make it. So I called my partners. They had just both big-time Final Four refs. So I said, look, I'm on the game now. And after they picked the phone back up, I've dropped and going, you're on the game? I go, well, yeah, I'm on the game. And I go, oh, God. But okay, we'll see you in New York. So he told me where they were staying. So we're having lunch that day, and they go, so how do you and Coach get along? I said, what coach? He said, I know there's 2 games. What game do we have? He said, we got Bobby Knight and Wake Forest. I went, well, Bobby Knight, that's we had Texas Tech. That's Bobby Knight. I finished my lunch. I didn't eat it. I just said, guys, I need to go to the room. So I went to the room and paced the room for about 7 hours. So we get in the locker room, the 2 big-time refs, they're talking about how they're going to handle the game. And I'm just thinking to myself, don't get embarrassed on national TV. Just don't get embarrassed, because it was one of my first big games. Like, people back in Roanoke are going to be watching me in Madison Square Garden. I got to deal with him, because I'd seen all the stories, him throwing chairs and him getting thrown out and all. Well, they just said, whatever you do, don't ignore him. You got to answer him. You got to communicate with him. Well, communicating with him was a little different than communicating with the ODAC colleges coaches I was used to back home. So I was like, I better use everything in my toolbox. And I said, okay, if he comes at me hard, I'll communicate with him. They said, well, we'll handle him. But if you're over there, he's going to come at you hard tonight. You got to handle it. I got it. We go over to shake his hand before the game, and he's hugging the 2 Final Four refs. He gets to me, and he just kind of looks me up and down, doesn't say a word, and I shake his hand, tried to shake it real firm. He put like a stone cold hand lock on me. I almost went down to my knee, and I was like, okay. And they do the national anthem. My partner said, are you good? I said, I got him. I'm good. I'm scared to death. I'm like, I just got to ref this game. First half goes along, and the whole half he is screaming, Randy this, Randy that, Randy UMF, Randy. He's screaming Randy. I'm right from his bench, and I'm thinking, I don't know who Randy is, but that player's going to get benched. He's wearing his ass out. So we get at halftime, and my partners are going, I'll give you credit, Raj. He hadn't spoke to you. He hadn't said a word to you all night. I go, I got him in the palm of my hand. He's scared of me. They said, oh, that's great. Let's keep him right there for another 20 minutes. I said, yeah, I got it. So go back out, start second half, and we're standing there before TV comes back, and Bobby Knight points across the court. And he motions, come over here. Well, I look at my partner, and I said, hey, Coach Knight wants to talk to you. And Coach Knight goes, no, not him, me, pointing to me. So I walked over, and I thought, wow, this is big. I'm not in the Big 12, but he's going to tell me, I'm so good, he's going to get me hired in the Big 12 tonight. I walk over there, and he says, blank, 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 Randy. Nobody blank, blank ignores me, Randy. Blank, blank, Randy, and a couple F-bombs. And I said, Coach, my name is Roger. And he turned his assistant, and he goes, Coach, it's Roger, not Randy. He said, I've been yelling at you the whole first half. I know you're blind, but you can't hear either. Trust me, the second half, he knew my name was Roger, and it was a long 20 minutes, and I was glad to get out of there that night and get back home. But great story, though. We laughed about it when he started doing TV later on. He said, you still suck that night, Randy. He's what he told me.
Oh my gosh. I think we could go on for days with the stories you might have, but I wanted to bring up, I mean, you mentioned Madison Square Garden being like the Mecca. I'm sure you called hundreds and hundreds of games in just different arenas around the country. I mean, I'm sure you've done Cameron, you've done Rupp, probably done UNC, but I know you're a busy guy and you got to keep a schedule and whatnot, but you get a chance to kind of look back like, wow, I just called a game here. I just called this fantastic game and get to think about this game and kind of cherish it a little bit. Or do you wait till after the season?
As I've gotten older, I do. I look around, like I'm in my office now, and look around the room and see some things that places I've worked, and I still kind of pinch myself because at the heart, I was a high school basketball ref that got a break. There are thousands of refs out there who are better than me, or better judgment, who could do a better job. I've just been blessed to get some opportunities, and the games have went relatively smooth. I've kind of stayed out of the way, but I've always felt like the game is about the players and the coaches. It's never about referees. And when the game turns to be about officiating, it's usually not a very good game. And I look back, I'm very blessed. Basketball officiating has been great to me. I love what I do. And when I retire in a few years, I would like to give back to officials and maybe help officiate, because officiating is never going to be perfect, as we talked about earlier. It's a work in progress. And every year, players get bigger, stronger, faster, as we discussed. Officiating's got to get better as well. We can't rest on our laurels. Like this November 3rd is opening night for us this year. I think it's 93 days from tonight. 13 weeks from tomorrow is opening night. Well, I can't rest on I can't go into that opening night game and say, hey guys, I did Auburn, Florida, Final Four. I'm big time. Did you see me on TV? Nobody cares. Actually, August 1st is when, it's ironic we're doing this. August 1st is I started back doing the rules. So I spend an hour and a half every day from now till season starts studying rules, but nobody cares what I did last year.
Well, if it makes you happy, I do care. I think you did a great job that game again.
Well, you're my favorite fan. You know what? I'll do the podcast with you next. I don't need Steve Myers involved in my contract.
Wait. Hold on. I was just getting ready to tell you that I appreciated the job you did at the semifinals, and I think it's right over top of your shoulder there back in 2022. I
Oh
think it's
yeah.
the other way. That one. I think it's yeah. So I think you sent somebody, and I don't make no bones about it. I'm a Carolina guy through and through, so I don't make any bones about it. But I believe that night somebody wound up going into retirement. I think he was at a little school over in Durham, North Carolina. I think he was. But anyway, I did notice something that in some of the excerpts that you actually had to call a technical foul on Coach K one year, and he was able to frame that picture and send it to you and say one of the best, Roger Ayers. And I thought that was very classy of him.
Very class. When I first started, he was rough on me, as deservedly so. There'd be a foul on the other end of the floor, and he would yell at me, just testing me. I've seen him in games now since he's retired. And I said, I appreciate you being so hard on me. He said, well, you weren't very good then. You're not very good now. But I learned to realize you're about as good as we're going to get for a while. So I had to put up with you. So, but that was a class thing. I'll tell you a quick story about the technical foul. Very rare did he ever get a technical foul. It was rare. He knew what the line was, and this unfortunately was an ACC tournament, which meant every team was there, every coach was there, every AD was there, every president was there, all the media was there. So the game's going along, and he got a little too excited. He kept pushing and pushing and pushing. And before I realized it, and forgot I wasn't in Danville, Virginia, I didn't realize I was in the ACC tournament. In the middle of the floor, my whistle just went off, and I turned and called technical foul. So that brought the house down. Half the side was loving me, the other half was hating me. So he had some things to say. The game ends. I go to the locker room, and my two partners they're like shocked. They don't even want to look at me, because in the tournament, how it's based is if you do well in this game, you may advance to the next round. So they were kind of pissed. They're like, we're done. We're not moving on. You just teed Coach K. We're done. And I'm thinking, our boss walks in. He looks like he just seen a ghost. And I'm like, this isn't good, because he had been dealing with the commissioner and the supervisor and all this other stuff. And I looked down at my phone. I had over 100 texts and one missed call. And the missed call said, Dad. Well, my dad never called me unless he needed a pack of Pound Miles. He never called. And he knew where I was at because he had been watching the game. So I said, hey, guys, I got to go see what my dad needs. So I go in the bathroom stall at the Coliseum and listen to the voicemail. And it says, call me ASAP. Well, I'm thinking the worst now. Something's happened. So I called. I said, "Hey, Dad, what's wrong?" He said, "Why are you whispering?" I said, "Dad, I'm about to go into a post game briefing. I'm about to get my rear end shoot out." He goes, "Well, when are you coming home?" I said, "Dad, are you sick? I can come home tonight." He goes, "Son, when do you come home?" I said, "Well, if I make it and work the finals, I'll be home Sunday morning." He goes, "When do you land?" I said, "Around 11. Why?" He said, "You know where the Home Depot is out to Roanoke Airport." And I go, "Yeah, Dad, what's the point of that?" He says, "I want you to do me a favor." I said, "What?" He said, "I want you to go there when you land and buy you a nice mower. Get a John Deere, get one of them nice mowers, and get you a nice weed eater, a blower. Don't get electric, get the gas powered blower." I said, "Dad, well, I don't have time to talk about your yard." He said, "No, this is for you, son. You just heed God on national. Your career is over, so you better open a lawn care business." So I hung up on my dad, but that's the backstory to that. My dad, until he died, used to give me a hard time about it.
It's beautiful.
I never
Last,
did buy it.
last couple for me. I just wanted to. I think according to the Roger Ayers ref tracker on Twitter, you did a ton of games. I think you did 109 games or something like that. I think 2 years ago maybe. Um, with that and every night kind of type of situation, what kind of fitness do you have to keep up with? Like running around, every game. So what are you doing in the off season part to keep yourself in a fit? And then how many pairs of shoes do you go through in a season?
Well, usually I use 4 pair because but it's going to shock you with the jump. I like to look professional. I like to look the part. So I usually go through 3 or 4 pair of Nikes each season. But as far as I don't have an off season. Like 2 days after the Final Four this year, I came back home and I went to my gym and there's an old man in there, is always there. He said, "What are you doing here, son?" "I just watched you Saturday night." I go, "I want to go back next year." He said, "I don't understand that." I go, "Because I hear voices, I hear footsteps, because behind me, there are hundreds of refs who are coming and they want that opportunity. And I'm just trying to hold them off." So I go to the gym 6 days a week. The only day off is Sunday. That was one of the reasons I wanted to do this today. It's my one day off, but I start every day with the 2.5 mile walk, and it's a mountain. And then I end every day with a 2.5 mile walk. So that's 5 miles of walking every day. And then I spend 2 hours at my gym every day, except Sunday, just to keep my body in shape because it is a grind. If the average person knew what we did, like every single day, our contract says we have to take the first flight. So that's four. Usually we're getting up at 4 a.m., 4:30, getting the shuttle. You have to take the first flight because the longer you wait in the day, the more things could happen with maintenance or weather. So if the first flight in the morning is canceled, you've got other options to get there. So the hardest part of my job is traveling. And I had a camper this summer said, "Roger, what's your toughest call?" And I said, "Traveling." He goes, "Yeah, I struggle with the pivot foot too." I go, "No, no, no, I'm not talking about traveling during the basketball. Getting because if you're in Tallahassee, Florida, or Miami, Florida, and it's sunny in January, and tomorrow night you're in Syracuse or Boston, and there's a winter storm with 18 inches of snow, you got to get there. So that means maybe get me to Philly and have to take a train or whatever it is. So the hardest part, those games, I enjoy working. The happiest I am is when I get to the arena. Okay, I'm here, and then I can relax. But I get a lot of rest during. I always take the first flight. Sometimes I'm in the next city by 8 or 9 a.m. People say, "Well, he works too many games." Well, I have breakfast and I'm resting 6 or 7 hours, going napping. The average person is working all day and staying. And I get as much rest as possible. I can take a nap with anybody. Some people think I take a nap during the games. They think I'm not even paying attention, but you got to take care of your body year round because if your body lets you down in January, February, you're not. We're independent contractors. If I don't work, I don't get paid. We're paid per game. So if I tweak my knee or hamstring and call the ACC, they say, "Oh, that's a shame, Roger." But they're not going to cancel games because I hurt my hamstring. So I have to take care of my body in the offseason, building up for that. And as I've gotten older, it gets tougher. But I'm big in stretch. I do a lot of yoga now because there's a lot of females in there that try to help me with my downward dog and things. So I've learned to let them. Uh, there's a lot to officiate that happens off the court. So, but yeah, if you take care of your body, hopefully it'll take care of you during.
Well, I can attest to this because when I made the phone call to you, you were actually walking your trail and you told me you'd get back to me. So I can attest to that. Look,
Anytime you come and walk it with me, or come pick me
I,
up.
I will. Listen, I wanted to ask you, have you seen any differences between working for Mr. Bearcat, Fred Bearcat, and then now Brian Kersey? Is there any major differences between the two?
really, because Brian was a disciple of Fred Bearcat. Fred Bearcat had Brian Kersey. I've been through three supervisors: Fred Bearcat, and then John Clougherty, and then Brian Kersey. So it is an extremely hard job, and everybody loves them the first year or two they have the job. But as you know, Brian and I talk a lot, and what referees care about is are you giving them games? But they have to deal with coaches, ADs, commissioners. I mean, there's people that watch what we do. And if you're not doing the job, and I've told Brian, I've told John Clougherty this when he had a job, if I'm not doing the job, tell me. You know, the only way to get someone's attention is to start taking games from them. They will improve. If you got someone who's overweight on your staff and you keep giving them games, well, they're going to keep going to Golden Corral there and eating a buffet. They don't care. Drinking beers and eating wings. If you say, okay, you're getting a low weight, you can't keep up anymore, I'm going to give you the month of December off. I guarantee you, they're going to be drinking water tomorrow and walking trails because they know that's what they have to do. And if someone's kicking rules, you need to tell them, look, we're missing rules. Or if you're calling 100 technical fouls, you need to learn to communicate more. That's the things I want to, hopefully one day I can help officials more and train more. But be in shape, look the part, learn to communicate, be a good person, be a great listener. You don't have to always have the answer. Sometimes you're wrong, you know. And sometimes, like I tell players all the time, hey, thanks for telling me that. I didn't realize that. I'll take a look at it. A lot of times they can give you information that can help. But as far as Brian and Fred go, Brian is much more maybe one of us because we ref together. You know, Fred didn't never ref. Brian and I worked hundreds of games together, and you know, him and I can talk about things on the floor because he knows what I'm going through. He knows why maybe I've missed that call or what I saw on that play. So it's kind of like talking to an expert who's been there. And you know, like if I talk to you as an umpire, you know things about, you know, baseball I would have no clue about. Basketball, I know a few things. I don't know a lot, but that you don't know about. So when your supervisor has that knowledge and has been in your shoes, I think it makes a world of difference. But we're blessed.
Who would you classify as Roger Ayers' mentor, or who has kept you in this game for as long as you've been in it?
Probably Steve Myers. No, that is a great question. Most of my mentors, my circle is extremely small. People wouldn't believe that, but it is probably I talk to 2 or 3 refs every single day, and those are kind of like my guys that I lean on and I trust because I don't want to be the guy. If I called you up after every game, Greg, and you said, "Roger, you're the best. You were awesome," as you know, you want somebody who's going to be honest, saying, "Maybe go back and look at that." The last 5 minutes of your game, a couple of those plays you were out of position on, you guess. You want someone to be on. That's the only way you're going to get better. Like I'm sure your first podcast, you and your son, you broke it down and went, we can do better than this, or we can do better next time. And that's why now you're superstars. Everybody in the world knows just do podcast.
What do you mean after the first one? We talking about after the 50th one? We still trying to get better.
I tell them every day.
That's the District 2 podcast so good because you're trying to get better. You're a referee. And like I said earlier to you guys, I can't go on this year and wear my Final Four patch and go, look at me, look what I did. Nobody. And after this podcast, I know it'll be hard to top this one next week, but it's okay. Just do the best you can. But I was just kidding. Love what you guys do. And I went back and looked at some of the guests you had. I'm like, wow, these guys know what they're doing. So I do appreciate you having me on. It's been a great time talking to you. I hope it was what you were hoping for.
Absolutely. Is there anybody that you care to comment on that a player on any level, the best player that had really made you starry-eyed, that you, I mean, even if you're refereeing or if you played against, and I know you were right there in front of that 87 Patrick Henry team that won the state championship that absolutely tore through my undefeated GW team. So I'm just curious if y'all, if it was somebody that really you just caught your eye that just stood out above anybody else.
And obviously, I've been blessed to work several major college basketball players that went on to some that I thought were good college basketball players that are now multimillionaires in the NBA that I thought were good, not that good, but now they're amazing. One guy that jumps out early in my career is Kevin Durant. He just had it. Something a lot of your listeners, he still plays out. He just had it. He just flowed. And more recently, Cooper Flagg. I heard all the hype of him this past year. He was 17 years old in the first few games. I remember John Shire said, Roger, the kid can't even vote. I said, well, don't mess him up. I think he's going to be a pretty good player. But actually, the ACC tournament this year. Remember, he was hurt, and I go over and get some water, and he said, "Mr. Ayers, how you doing?" I said, "Coop, I'm doing great, man. I hope you get better." He said, "I'll be okay." And I said, "Can I give you some advice?" He said, "What's that?" And I said, "I think I'd go the NBA route. I don't think I'd go the refereeing route just yet." He said, "I appreciate you telling me that." But there are so many great players, and the greats, not that they know they're great, but they don't have the ego. They don't have the arrogance. They just play. Obi Toppin, who I think he's maybe with the Pacers now, he was at Dayton. I mean, you knew he was good, but he would always say, took the time to know my name. He'd call me Mr. Ayers. And there are certain players I go, call me Roger. He said, sure. I said, you can call me Roger. But he would always say, Mr. Ayers or Roger. I think I got bumped, but I know it's a hard job. Or just human, just trying to be. He knew I had a hard job. He had, but guys like that stand out to me. And a lot of coaches I've got to meet over the years, and what you see on TV is not always what is real life. A lot of them I remember when Gary Williams, who used to coach at Maryland, Hall of Famer, went at a game at Maryland one year, and it's a blizzard outside, and he wore me out for 2 hours during the games, cussing, screaming, yelling. So when the bright lights are off and the game is over, me and my crew are leaving at the Comcast Center. He's coming out with his entourage, and he said, "Hey, Roger, hold up a second. I went, this isn't going to be good." He said, "Look, the it's really bad. I'm gonna have them take you guys to a hotel, and they'll get you to the airport in the morning." And I thought,
Wow.
I think you just lost the game, and I thought, you know what, that's class. That, you know what, a lot of times what you see on TV is, and so, even some with some officials, people say, "Well, Roger, that guy's arrogant, that guy's a jerk," and some are. I totally agree, but a lot of them are. Most of them are just trying to do the job and survive and try to get to the next game, but officiating is extremely hard, but after you've had all these coaches on and players and media, I'm glad you finally got around to us, and hopefully I don't hurt your ratings too bad.
Well, I know we got to get you out of here, but my last question for you is this, and if you haven't thought about it, that's fine. I totally get it. You're a very busy guy. What does the future hold for Roger Ayers?
Um, Great question. As I get older, I do think about it. You know, people have asked me, do I want to get into management, get into the supervisor side of officiating? And that's a tough question because that would mean I can never ref again. You know, once you come off the floor, you can't come off the floor and then go back. So I love what I do. I would like to maybe, if and when I want to retire on my terms, not when somebody has to come to me and says, "Rod, you can't keep up anymore. The pace of the game is too quick for you." I want to leave on my terms. And when that time comes, I would like for somebody, whether it's the ACC or the Big 12 or another league, saying, "We would like you to come in and just help training our guys, maybe giving them some advice on what you did, what helped you be successful, so we can, especially our younger guys, you know, instead of getting away from the assigning part where, like Brian Kersey's job is impossible. How he does it, I don't know, but I would be interested in maybe in some lower level helping, like he has the Big South, the Colonial, the A10, or even the ODAC going." Just giving back because it's been great to me. And some officials will listen to me and some won't, and that's their choice. Uh, but I would like to give back. It's been great to me. And if I could give back to the game and tell people, you know, we started this an hour ago, doing rec ball and then AAU and then high school and then college. And, you know, it's a great gig. But I would also tell, don't don't give away your day job. Don't leave your family. I've heard guys say, "Well, I left my wife. I lived in some guy's garage." This summer, I heard a guy say, "I lived in a guy's garage. I left my family. I want to referee so bad." And I said, "You're crazy. You know, your family, your job, your life, health. That's what's more important than any game you'll ever work. And just don't keep your pride in order. And that's what I want to do when I retire. Is maybe tell some guys, but keep this thing in perspective, and then maybe start doing podcasts."
Well, Devin down in the bottom down there, he's been very quiet. He's said he couldn't get on because of his bad reception. But I figure, see, he can't say anything while I'm talking, so I'm gonna go ahead and throw it out there. So we were going to propose to you Roger Ayers Day, where we want to do something where we can get out there and follow you to a game sometime and just put you on since you've been our guest. I mean, if we have to go to Liberty, if we have to go to UVA, if we have to go to the Duke Carolina game, I mean, God help us on that. I mean, but we would love to, do an all access with Roger Ayers sometime. Just, hey, we'll come to the Roanoke Rec League if we got to.
Maybe I'll come back to GW Danville now, 30 years back.
I
Yeah,
think I can swing it with DeMarcus coaching now. I think I can get you back in there now.
a ref is not very good, but he'll come in and do his game for him. But I'd love to have you guys as a guest. If you'll get with me in October, we'll pick a game that I'm doing, and I'll get you some tickets and some all access, and you're welcome to come hang out in the locker room and see what we do.
That'd be awesome. Listen, I know you got to get out of here, and God, we appreciate it's way over an hour now. I know, and we can't thank you enough. And ladies and gentlemen, we've just had a real treat tonight. And Roger, we're just hoping that you have a great year. Hoping we have the great future, and we appreciate it. And we look forward to talking to you again.
Thanks so much for having me, guys. Take care.
Thank you.
Thanks, Coach. Have a good one. Thank you again to Mr. Ayers. Just a great interview, a fun time. The guy had us cracking up all interview. We may put that video out here soon, so you guys can see that. But just an awesome interview. We appreciate his time, and I know he's a busy guy. He's getting ready for the season. I'm sure he's in the weight room and going on his runs and whatnot. So we'll be watching him come season. But yeah, thank you all for listening to all these interviews. I think we're over 70 interviews or 70 episodes, over 60 guests. It's been a wonderful time. We're getting close to the 10,000 mark, so 10,000 listens. So we appreciate you guys so much. Also, any listeners out there, if you are interested in sponsoring, we're looking for a couple of sponsors for the podcast to make some upgrades to some different projects and equipment upgrades and just more stuff we can do for the podcast. So if you have a business that you know of that might be interested, please let us know. We'll definitely reach out and try to get something going. But again, we just want to thank you all so much. We have a lot of stuff coming up in the next few weeks for football season, and yeah, just excited that football season is here finally. So thank you guys for listening. Have a great one.